And when Peter offered me hospitality, it was just an enormous yes. This is the place that I want to work. The St Mary's community embraced taking seriously the most central tenet of the gospel, that was to respond to injustice, to be people who walked seriously with those who are marginalised by society.
Yeah, thanks, Wayne.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, all the best. Yeah. All of these bits of timber, driftwood, are all coming together to make the one cross. And in a sense, that, I think, exemplifies this community. We are a very diverse, very different community insofar as the people who make it up. And in a sense, this cross symbolises that aspect of community, that we are very fragmented, but we're also unified in many ways.
I've been going there since I was 18 months. So, what's that, 23 years? I doubt that I'd be the same person if I went to a local Catholic parish where we didn't talk about these issues and they weren't in your face all the time. And you know, you could just get the homily about, you know, what the priest discovered when he crossed the road the other day. That's not what happens at St Mary's. We talk about deeper stuff that challenges people and makes them think when they leave the church doors.
We come to this table to renew our communion with the earth.
Having defied the Archbishop, Peter Kennedy is stood down from St Mary's, but he is refusing to budge.
I leave you peace.
A replacement priest, Father Ken Howell, has been appointed to South Brisbane Parish, but Father Kennedy is refusing to hand over his keys.
He was very friendly and warm towards me, but denied me access to the church through the keys.
The Catholic Church says police could forcibly remove Father Kennedy if he doesn't step aside.
I'd imagine that a person could be removed by police. I'm not making a big thing of that. I mean, if it has to happen, it has to happen.
It'd be wonderful if some bishops came and said they did not agree with John Battersby's decision. I know bishops who didn't agree with it, but I wish they would come out and say so and break this code of brotherly, priestly silence. It's like Catholic mafia silence. We need to break that. We need to be with the people.
So that's what we're saying. We say you can come to us. If when we arrive.
As the impasse continues, the St Mary's Church Council calls an emergency meeting.
In the car park.
Continue with St Mary's, but we don't want to answer those questions.
The council is preparing a questionnaire for the community about a future under a new priest.
No, don't ask these questions. Don't trust me. The community's there, they're bloody clapping, they're one behind us.
For now.
Why divide them? Well, for now, okay, well, be for now.
But that doesn't... Peter,
I'm serious. I'm getting tired, I'm really...
Yeah, but hey, look, you must understand, everybody around this table is 100%...
Well, are they?
Yes, absolutely.
They're stupid questions. You're dividing the community. Battersby, you're putting somebody who will toe the line totally. That's why we just have to stay there. We're not going to go away. Church is the people of God. So it's not a matter of fighting the Archbishop. It's a matter of remaining truthful to who we are as a community of people who love to be together.
We're setting up a tent embassy to show our solidarity with the family and community of St Mary's in this struggle against the hierarchy of Rome. This area around the church is one of the last places we can actually come and practice and express our spiritual beliefs. We will stand at St Mary's if we say to the Pope, Benedict XVI, bring it on, mate, bring it on.
I believe we need to stay here. And if they came in then they would immediately ring around, get people to come, and they would...
To force the Catholic Church to back down, Peter Kennedy is hoping his parishioners will occupy the church and chain themselves to pews. But his council is not convinced his plan will work.
Yeah, but I'm not sure where that's going to really lead in the longer run. Yes, it might lead to your being arrested. Yes, it might lead to your not paying a fine. Yes, it might lead to your spending a night in a clink somewhere. But so what? In the meantime, the church is a lot.
At what point do you say, what are you trying to achieve at that point? What can you name a finishing point or a continue? And
it's hard to say.
Okay, so you don't have a plan?
Well, they could back away.
Is your hope that by doing that they will...
Better to acknowledge that Ken or whoever is going to take over, and by that time, rather than simply resist and find that as of Thursday, for example, we're locked out and we've got nowhere to go and we're scrabbling around trying to organise something.
Reluctantly, Peter Kennedy concedes to the church council.
Well, we could say that we will move out of here on the first Sunday after Easter.
Okay. How do you feel about that? We need you to be...
Oh, well, I mean, I'm listening to all the arguments here, and it's obvious that it is too open-ended just being in the church.
The council makes an unprecedented decision. The community will leave the church in a peaceful protest and go into exile.
Over here, Kenny. There you go. Stay by my side, because the council man might get you. Kenny, you gonna sit here? Over here. That cancer is just enormous. Huge. You're lucky it grew outside, not in, eh? You might live a long time yet, Ken. You might live longer than me. Eh? You can move if you want to. The Catholic Church has won the fight because they had the power and the legality behind them. But I wonder whether they've won the battle. There's been a paradigm shift in St. Mary's about God, about Christ, and about the church. And once you've made a paradigm shift, you can't go back. Once you realise that the world is not flat, but it's round, well, you can't go back to a compromise position and say, yes, it's flat and round.
The Archbishop agrees to let Peter and the community celebrate one last Easter at the church before they leave.
I think it's a very sad time for St Mary's. I think St Mary's going to die now. The new administrator's going to take over on the 26th. I think you go where the people are. The people have the heart. The people have the warmth.
The fact that they're and so strong, it means that we don't feel in any way sapped. And we know that we will go on. So have that hope, have that belief in yourselves. And yeah, okay, thanks, mate.
Never before has a Catholic congregation in Australia left its own parish and followed its priest into exile.
I don't think it's sort of come home to me, really. I don't think I'm quite in touch with it, I guess. They feel angry at the injustice done. I mean, that's what this community has done. It stood up to the injustice perpetrated against people in the church. I'm going to pick up my dog, Tanny. She didn't survive the cancer. Well, you know, nothing lasts forever.
Lovely Ted.
Thanks very much for that.
That's
Good.
stuff for you.
Thanks.
What have you got in there?
A dog, Lenine, a dog. You're Lenine, aren't you?
You're going to be all right?
No, she's dead.
Yeah.
I put her down the other night. Yeah.
Yeah, just...
She's in the bag there.
This is from Michael Looney. And so, dear Mr. Curley, my heart is heavy. No, I can't read it. Oh, dear.
Dear Mr. Curley, my heart is heavy with a great sadness. It feels like such an old sadness.
So full and still and beautiful. So painful, I want to be with it. I want to stay here and become like it. With love, Vasco Pajama. Yes.
The following Sunday, a new congregation arrives at St Mary's for the first service without Peter Kennedy.
Good morning, Brother Grenier, and welcome to St Mary's.
It is to be led by a new parish priest, Father Ken Howell, who has been appointed by the Archbishop.
Changes in the wind, isn't it?
Most of the people that I've spoken to seem to be people from other parishes who are here for today.
Yes.
But are they coming back, have you?
Well, that remains to be seen, but I think it also speaks of the support for the Archbishop. And
if you call yourself a Catholic, you have to do things the Catholic way. If you want to start a new church for yourself, you're always free to do so. And Father Kennedy is free to start a new church, but he's not free to call himself a Catholic when he's not following Catholic practices and Catholic way of saying the Mass.
I firmly believe that Peter Kennedy could have helped his community to come back into line with the Church much more easily than wanting to fight. I would personally hate to have that on my shoulders of saying that I have led a community out of the communion of the Church. There's got to be some basics that you can't play with. The funniest thing I heard someone say, you know, you can't take over a franchise at McDonald's and then decide that you're not going to sell Big Macs.
Why on earth anyone would want to portray himself as Jesus on the cross?
Brian Grenier is one of a handful of Peter Kennedy's former parishioners who has remained behind at St Mary's Church.
Well, my decision to part company with the community was made before the intervention of the Archbishop, although I was slow in actually making the step. And my reason was that I felt that the whole experience was becoming more cult-like, more like a sect. It was quite obvious that that was heading towards some form of schism. And of course that has come about since, and there's no way in the world that I can be part of a schism. I would be turning my back on a faith which has sustained me for the whole of my life.
That's who we are. We are St Mary's Community in Exile, and we're in exile among the working class, not with the hierarchy.
Peter Kennedy sets up a temporary church in a nearby Trades and Labour Council building. On their first Sunday, more than 500 people turn up to celebrate Mass.
Moses didn't have a building. John didn't have a building. But buildings aren't church. People are church.
We're broadcasting our services through our own website and through the internet, and we're doing it for people who are very interested throughout Australia and even throughout the world. And hopefully the Vatican might even log into our website. My friends, what do you bring to Christ's table?
We bring bread made by living people's word, an unjust world where some have plenty and most go hungry.
At this table all are fed and no one is turned away.
Thanks be to God.
There's something very special happening there. For me, I think it's really, I feel really privileged to be part of it.
I've had to leave my old church, the Adventist church, because I'm gay, and now I had to leave St Mary's building because that church, the Catholic Church, couldn't accept the love that was in the St Mary's community, but the love's come with us, and so I'm happy to be here.
With no permanent home, the People's Cross remains where it's been since the community first went into exile.
Well, the cross has landed on my front deck because we can't really take it down to the TLC. It was too big. At the moment, we don't know what we're going to do with it. All we know is that we wanted to hold it in a place that was relatively safe.
As Peter Kennedy's community settles into its temporary home, the new Catholic congregation back at St Mary's Church is taking its first tentative steps.
Tonight we're going to talk about the future of this church. Hopefully we can come to some decisions about things, but it's going to be very difficult because we don't know who knows that we're here. The local paper was sent to the Mass Times, but they didn't print them.
Well, let us pray as we begin our meeting tonight. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Any priest moving into a new community is always uncertain about how he will be received, and mostly a priest leaves a parish and the next priest comes in to take over, and he would expect that that community, that congregation would still be there. They wouldn't expect that there would have been a protest vote and people have left in numbers before he even said his first Mass there. There may be other people who have worshipped here who might eventually join us again. I don't want them to come back and find the place just totally different to anything they've ever seen or known in this church.
The biggest point of contention at the first meeting is whether or not to return the seating to a more traditional layout.
1960 years of Catholic tradition has to be taken into consideration as well. I mean, it wasn't built for the fun of it.
Oh yes, well, there's been various layouts of churches too in those 1900 years.
That's true, that's true.
But anyway, let's just keep the dialogue stays open.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah. Good, Andrew.
On the night before he met his death, Jesus came to table with those he loved. He took the bread and blessed you, God.
Although Peter Kennedy has been dismissed from St Mary's, he's still a Catholic priest. But his ongoing defiance provokes the Archbishop to issue a final warning.
He opened by the addressee only. What power does he have over us now? Oh my God. Seeing that you celebrated the Liturgy of the Word and then formally proceeded to the Trades and Labour Council building for the Liturgy of the Eucharist, and then for the third Sunday of Easter, celebrated Eucharist in that same place, publicly demonstrating your intention to create a group separate from the particular Church of Brisbane and therefore the Universal Church, you have caused further harm to ecclesiastical communion. Unless you cease these actions and by a formal act repent and are reconciled to the Church, I shall impose on you penalties in accordance with Canon 1371 of the Code of Canon Law, not excluding dismissal from the clerical state.
Is that excommunication?
I don't know. Who can tell us that?
Oh, we've got it at work. I'll go and look it up.
Well, this is history
Yeah.
in the making here.
It's using the power because he's got it.
Well, he thinks he's got it.
Yeah. Well, he has got it. What does the canon say? You're joking. So 1370 is a person who uses physical force against a Roman pontiff is the one before it.
Okay.
A heretic or a schismatic
Yeah. I'm a heretic.
incurs a latae sententiae, which is excommunication. So this letter's the warning.
Yeah, it's a warning. So this is the first step.
Yeah.
If we go ahead next week, it means, of course, that I'm not going to repent, and so I'm very disobedient, and so he will then excommunicate me next week.
They didn't go to these lengths with anyone who's been found guilty of sexual abuse and committed a crime and gone to jail and come out. Like, there are still some still allowed to say Mass.
After receiving the Archbishop's letter, Peter retreats to his cabin in the Gold Coast hinterland.
From a very early age, I was serious about the search for meaning. When I was 20 and I said to my parents one night that I was thinking of becoming a priest, and my father said to me, "Do you realise you'll never be able to get married?" And I thought, well, that's the least of my worries. The only marriage I knew, really, was my parents' marriage. My parents' marriage wasn't a particularly happy marriage. My father in those years, he drank heavily. The reality was I always wanted my father's attention. As a young child, you're looking for stability. And the Catholic Church would teach us that God was a father and that God loved us unconditionally. Within the Catholic world, to be a priest was the highest thing you could aim for.
After the final threat from the Archbishop, Peter is beginning to question the very foundation of his beliefs.
I don't know who I am anymore.
What does Peter Kennedy believe in?
Well, what do I believe in? We should look at issues like the historical Jesus, you know. Did such a man ever exist?
Do you think Jesus existed?
Well, I, at this particular point, think no.
Sorry?
At this particular point of my journey, I think Jesus did not exist. Even if he did, he was not the Jesus of the church. And, you know, generation after generation have put this incredible mythology around this Palestinian miracle worker, whatever he was.
For any Catholic, let alone a priest, Peter Kennedy's faith has taken an extraordinary turn.
My friends, let us proclaim.
But for now, at least, he's keeping it to himself.
When we eat this bread and drink this cup, we proclaim your death, Lord Jesus, until you come in glory.
Even though Peter Kennedy continues to perform Christian rituals, he is looking for spiritual guidance elsewhere.
Religious without spiritual is an ideology.
Over the past decade, Peter has been drawn to the ideas of a German-born spiritual writer and teacher, Eckhart Tolle.
Sometimes religious and spiritual can go together, but in many cases, religious only Religious only is just more thoughts in your head. But
The things that Eckhart Tolle talks about has been a long tradition within the Catholic Church, but that tradition has been suppressed time and time again. The Catholic Church talks in terms of dualities. For example, heaven and hell, good and evil. Now my hope, my purpose, would be to try to take the community away from that sort of dualistic thinking into what many people call non-dualism. Hi, Karen. Yes? Oh, the letter has arrived from the Archbishop. Wow, I hereby, in accordance with Canon 974, Section 2, without prejudice to Canon 976, revoke your faculty to hear confessions. Well, that's really going to upset me. I mean, you hear so many confessions. In accordance with Canon 764, revoke your faculty to speak, to preach.
Preach?
Revoke your faculty to preach. Well, they're going to take away my voice, is he? My voice box?
It's just so ridiculous that it's got to this. Like, it should never have got to
Well,
this.
I know, this is what I mean.
It is the fact that this is an act of penalty by your superior that is just...
In June 2009, Archbishop Battersby suspends Peter Kennedy from public ministry. He is now forbidden to practice as a Catholic priest anywhere in the world.
How you going?
I'm fine, yeah.
Fine. You know you have our...
Oh, no. Absolutely.
The next step is excommunication.
Yeah, but we just ignore what they're saying anyway.
What will you be doing today?
Everything is
Everything
normal. Yeah.
That's good. That's great.
It's not so much me, I mean, I really mean that. It's what the Archbishop was saying about this community and what he will say, and I've told you that already, that if you come here, then you will be outside the Roman Catholic Church as well.
I think because of what they're doing, people will realise that they are no longer associated with the Roman Catholic Church. They really are a church on their own. And once the penny drops there, it will be interesting to see what happens. Having known him since 1958, Peter and I were in the seminary for the first 18 months of his time there, after which time I decided to leave. He was a very spiritual priest, but I think his whole demeanour has changed. Now I think he looks as though he's determined to almost start a new church, and that will be the end of him having anything to do with the Catholic Church, the Roman Catholic Church. We have 5 people in the church at the moment, and we have 6 minutes to go. So with a bit of luck, we'll get some more.
It's been 3 months since Father Ken Howell took over at St Mary's, and the turnout remains low.
So what are you doing here?
I'm here, I'm snooping. You want me to say that?
Yeah.
No, I don't. Okay.
Yeah,
well, I'm here. Well, I'm just curious as to how many people come and where it's going to go and all that sort of stuff.
If we don't really know the actual fundamental nature of our identity, then we're kind of chasing our tail.
Peter Kennedy wants to introduce his community to his evolving spiritual ideas. He meets with followers of the Great Freedom Movement, who teach the philosophy of non-dualism.
Everyone is aware. There isn't anyone anywhere who can say, I am not aware.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's surprising how many people fall asleep.
Yeah, I can imagine.
In these, watching this. So many people fall asleep because it is so restful.
And I like that idea. It's emptiness, it's space. And everything's in that. Everything comes up into awareness from wherever.
Yeah.
It just comes up.
What I see is wonderful in this situation is we already have a community here at St Mary's where there is probably a lot of, I know there are a lot of very open-minded people that would be interested in this teaching of non-dual teaching. And I think it's a bit like the swine flu, there would be no stopping it once it's released into the community. We may use different words for awareness, such as grounded being, consciousness, God, mindfulness. The term awareness, however, is used because it's simple and it's generic and easy to understand. No one can say, I'm not aware. If I stop talking for a moment, it's awareness that quietly awaits for me to continue. It's that simple, it's that obvious, and it's not rocket science.
I have to say I got a bit lost, but nevertheless, I got the message about awareness, and honestly what he said is a profound truth.
Like, you really had to really concentrate in order to decipher the message that he was trying to portray, and it was just I think it was a bit too high up for a lot of people, so yeah.
What was his message?
After 6 months in exile, those closest to Peter are beginning to question the direction he's taking them.
Carol.
I want this shot.
I'll sit over here.
I really reacted the other day when I was told that we as a community needed to move into being more aware. Well, there's lots of ways that we're challenged to awareness.
There's only awareness, there's oneness. And out of that oneness, compassion arises for people's pain and suffering. It should.
I'm probably not on the same journey about awareness being such a focus. I think it's part of the journey, but not my whole focus. I get challenged to those sorts of realities through the people I meet and the challenges that their lives present to me.
But once people grasp it, if compassion doesn't follow, and if working for justice doesn't follow, there's something very wrong with it. But in my book, it should lead you to that.
Yeah, but I don't hear that articulated well. So that pathway for me is missing.
Right.
Are we a Catholic community or not?
Well, that's a good question, see.
Yeah,
It's an interesting story.
And I think that question needs to be put to everyone.
Jesus did not refer to himself as the Messiah. Jesus did not claim to be a divine being who descended to earth from heaven to die...
So that's the website of St Mary's in Exile. I'd like them to have a good button to fast forward. I just think it's sad that so many people believe what Peter and Terry tell them. I think it's becoming more difficult to understand what his basic beliefs are. I think his basic beliefs might be that if you're a good person, that's all it needs. You don't have to believe, just be a good person. But it's not for me to judge him. That's between he and his God. Who his God is, I'm not too sure.
Things have changed. The numbers have dropped a little bit. Peter has his own theology, but I think lots of people love Peter, my personal opinion. I think he's a nice guy, and I know that if we have anything happen, I'm sure we can work it out.
That church talks more about life after death.
Since he was sacked by the Archbishop, Peter Kennedy is becoming more openly critical of the teachings of the Catholic Church.
When you really start thinking about it, you see what nonsense all that is, really. It's nonsense. Christianity is still stuck in these doctrines and dogmas of ancient medieval worldviews. We have to, in my opinion, not just reimagine or rethink those ancient Christian truths. I think we have to ditch them.
It's definitely different. There's a lot more talk about cosmology and things like that, and I find that that's not the easiest entry point for me coming to church. Are we just going to sit here on the outer and wait, 10, 20, 30, 40 years for another pope to, reinstate us back into the Catholic Church? Or, if not, what?
We've always treated our community as adult Catholics. They don't have to follow me. We've always treated them as adult Catholics. We've encouraged them to read and discuss widely. We've provided them with so many books. Now, if they choose not to read those books, if they choose not to enter into discussion with each other, then I think they don't have a voice in this community. Go away and tell me what you do like so we can...
By now, the community is not only questioning Peter's theology, some members are accusing him of being autocratic, precisely what he accused the church of when they left.
We would never have got to where we are today if we'd been so democratic.
That's the very thing you accuse the hierarchy of.
No, it's not. It's not that at all. It's different altogether.
But you see, then we don't know, Peter, when you say if you don't like it, the democratic process would say, well, how are we going to decide if we don't like it? How is that decision
because
going to be made?
We will know from the people.
Oh, no, but that'll be a secret knowing. That won't be a transparent knowing.
No, it won't be a secret knowing.
Well, how are you going to organise it?
Well, we'll ask people.
In what way, Peter?
Well, wait and see.
Wait and see. You see, this is it. Anoint a point, make decisions.
See, you can't do these changes without doing leadership.
Clericalism does die hard, though, Peter.
Exactly.
Well, but I mean, if you say that, that's unfair.
Oh, sorry.
It's very unfair.
To ease the growing tension and find a way forward, Associate Priest Terry Fitzpatrick consults the community about its concerns.
I think that the need for people to come together is even greater in this time of flux and change.
What authority do you have?
Yes.
How much authority do we have?
Sometimes I feel we get too many outside homilies, and I'm quite often disappointed that I've come to Mass to hear that. I could have heard it somewhere else.
And I love being part of a rebel group, I love being a Catholics being chucked out. I think it's just wonderful.
Partly because we want to have longevity and we want to keep going and we want to grow as a community, then I think we need to establish what we are.
At what point do beliefs become so diverse that you don't actually have a common page?
Don't you think it's all a bit too progressive? To move to where you're talking about is so...
For me, the saddest thing is that a lot of the focus has been on that journey of Peter and Terry as the priests. I'm much more interested in housing people who are homeless and really getting communities involved in creating communities of equity and communities where everybody can have a place. That's where my passion is. It's not really in whether Mary was a virgin or not.
Peter and Terry now think one answer to the community's deepening anxiety may be a permanent home.
Well, here we are, Callan House. The dome,
fantastic.
They are hoping that a traditional church building will give the community a sense of security.
I sense that you may be interested in buying the building.
Well, we are looking for a place. I mean, the TLC building's fine, but we can't stay there forever. We are faced with, with our communities to survive. We need to look for something. And you're right, this will be ideal.
Yeah. This building would be slightly over $2 million.
There it is. Beautiful. Well, I think it'd be amazing to actually buy it, but I'm pretty sure we will. Like, amazing position.
Just a few blocks away, the new congregation at St. Mary's Church is celebrating its first year. Although a small turnout, the number of parishioners is growing.
Well, are you girls going to blow out the candle? Can you? Yeah. Right. 1, 2, 3. Oh! 1 year, but many, many years too. Most wonderful historic church.
It's been a hectic year and a year of ups and downs. And we're starting to get more people coming along. It's good, but I'd just like to see a few more. But we're getting there.
Everyone keeps asking me, how's everything going at St Mary's? It's amazing. I've never been asked a question about how a parish is going as much as it has been in the past 12 months. But I'm always glad to say that it's going very well, because it's like starting a whole new community.
St Mary's in the detail.
We love St Mary's.
It's about hearing from you as a community whether you think finding a home is something that you need, it's something that you want.
Back at the Trades and Labour building, a fundraising expert has been brought in to discuss the purchase of a new church.
Any fundraising activity, particularly one for this size, needs to be owned and driven and involved in the involvement of you as a community. And without that, it would be really difficult to do.
Obviously, we can't stay here forever, but there are a lot of options between here and a huge mortgage and a church.
Honestly, I really think we're putting the cart before the horse. I'm aware of Christian congregations around the suburbs of Brisbane who are using adapted warehouses.
That is an amazing, huge amount of money, and there could be so much that could be done with that money.
I wouldn't like to see the community move in the direction that the church has been in for so long, in power and possession.
I still miss the church. Been down here for 12 months. It's a great environment, we're lucky to have it. But for me, I still miss the church. So I would hope wherever we end up, it is a church.
It's very dangerous to put too much effort into concrete. I worry about that. So I think it's about identity. As a community, who are we? I think it's part of our faith not to have all the answers of who we are, but I think that identity has to be looked at.
After much deliberation, the community decides not to buy the church.
You know, I'm not infallible. I'm just a fallible human being. And I've discovered people don't walk away from this community because they don't agree with my theology. They stay with the community because the community itself is such a wonderful, alive, vital community that even though they don't agree with everything I would say or what Terry says, what our theology or our spirituality is, they stay.
When you see the demeanour of the room, it's a little...
After 18 months in exile, the 500 members are taking their future into their own hands by forming a company and selecting a council.
Who makes the decisions about the faith community?
It's the pastoral council. Who's the pastoral council of this show? Like, who runs this event?
I just want to ask if you can be a member of the community, for all its faults, it's a passionate community and it does sustain me. I still consider myself a Catholic. The word Catholic means to be all-inclusive. And I think Jesus calls us to be challenged and to challenge others to live like him. So that's why I keep going there.
It's really hard work and we've been really busy and we all have different points of view. Let's face it, St Mary's has never been any different. What we believe in is diversity and valuing humanity and valuing the role we play in creating a just community. They're the values that have always been there, and whether they have the blessing of the bishop or not really doesn't matter.
So if we come out this way...
No, I have to come out this way. Let's get round here.
The cross, having been in storage all this time, is now being brought back to the community.
And let it rest on its base. Keep going.
Is that low enough? Yeah. Do you want to swing around this way?
Yep. Today we have brought the Thicket Cross here for our Christmas celebration. The cross was created to represent our shared brokenness, our rich diversity, and in all of that, our unity. We are a community on the edge. We do not have a place. Our purpose for existence is to be of service to those on the edge. With that realisation comes, I believe, a sense of abiding joy. And with this joy, I believe, comes a sense of freedom and simplicity. We have to unlearn everything we've ever learnt if we're going to encounter life. We don't need priests or bishops for us to access the divine, if you want to call it that. We have only one life. One has to embrace life as it unfolds, as it is. Now, if you call that spiritual seeking, you can call it that. But it's about embracing life as it is, in the moment.